Welcome back. This is The Poet is a Human with the philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 33. Yo, that's my age, bro. Fight for ownership. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in, and if you like us, consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
And Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and not financial advice.
You know, and speaking of like advice, Dunamis, I'm thinking that like financial advice, right? So think about emotions.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to give you emotional advice, but I feel like right now, just with me, and just kind of how I'm feeling a little bit. I know I'm coming a little different right now, y'all, but this is episode number 33, so expect anything.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a way where I feel like we need to walk on a balance beam. I feel like we need to walk on a balance beam right now.
Mm-hmm.
You want to walk with me for a second?
Yeah. I'm ready for that. How are you feeling, man?
You know, I'm on a teeter-totter right now of just how I feel about politics. And I know that that's not necessarily something that I, really jump into a whole lot, but I just feel like I'm very disappointed. And I feel like, there are people out there that are sharing a similar sentiment. And I want to be able to express those things in a healthy way and still be able to walk on this balance beam without falling off.
My goodness, I'm feeling very similar. And Izzy, if I sometimes don't feel like walking that balance beam. Sometimes I just I want to kick that balance beam over, and that's how I've been feeling this past week. I think it's I think sometimes it can be really tough to we do all this research. We understand that the news isn't giving us good information. We understand that the companies that are selling us food in the grocery store aren't giving us good information. We've gone through the trouble of trying to figure out what's real and what's not real, and all of a sudden I feel like the rug's been pulled out from under me and I don't know what's real anymore.
Yeah.
It's not a good feeling.
You know what I realized after having that rug pulled, and before I say pulled from underneath me, before what I realized before having the rug pulled was it was a rug and it wasn't underneath me, and this was a reality that was created by somebody else that I wasn't forced to believe. I had a choice at the end of the day, just like we all do. And I realized that that was a perspective more than anything. And not my reality. Not my reality. Now, the reality of it is there is now a narrative that we have to discuss. And the reality of it is we know that with narratives, there's division. So, what I feel is the difference between Fightcast and other platforms, any other platforms. Okay, y'all, I said it, fight me in the comments. News and all this other jazz. I think that we're gonna have less people jumping off of the bridge, and because at the end of the day, like we've said from day one, none of this stuff is anything that we're telling you to do. Not financial advice, not a better way of living. Just things that we've experienced, and just this is what we love to do. So much that we manifested this. This is a moment where I would say in how pivotal, like in how critical our podcast is, and how important I think that it is. This is a way to maybe show some of you how to not freak out, for lack of better words.
Well, and I think a really critical point there that you're making is not to freak out and for us to exercise our own intelligence a little bit.
That part.
We tend to hear things like on the news, and it even doesn't make sense necessarily to justify what has been in the news in the past few days as news, because
Mm.
it's lies is really what it is. And regardless of whether you think what actually took place didn't happen, or you've just changed your mind so quickly, I think that we all need to recognize in ourselves the ability to rationally think and logically come to a conclusion, and then hold to that conclusion regardless of what what happens in circumstances around us. And I think it's a good time to point out even this podcast and the fact that we have Trump on the token, on Fight Token. And I I've always supported Trump. I've voted for him many times, and I think that what he has stood for, and in particular, the assassination attempt, is really what that token in the meme is about. Is when he stood and said "fight," it spoke to so many of us that had really lost hope, that didn't know what to do. And we still have that, like that hasn't gone away. Circumstances can't take that away. It doesn't change the fact that I got my life together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If a politician lets you down, I think that's really what we're getting to here. Is all of this stuff doesn't really affect our personal life as much as we think it does. And we let it affect us mentally. It becomes psychological warfare on us. And it's important for us just individually to take a step back and get away from it. I um i can say personally that it becomes really difficult when you're a principled person, and you don't let your mind get changed by what the news says or what a politician says. And when all of a sudden you see things that don't make sense, that make you sort of question reality, it 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 can be really difficult. And there's a lot of what they call cognitive dissonance, that's rolling around in my head. Things when you're trying to you think this thing is true, but you think this other thing is true, and they don't really jive. That's a very difficult place for people to be in. And I think that's also maybe why we grab onto these political parties so much, is because if somebody can just tell us what to believe and what to think, then I don't have to hold all this cognitive dissonance in my head.
Mm.
I can just listen to what they're telling me, and I can feel better, and I don't have to worry about it. There's no stress. And I can't do that. I don't know how to do that.
I won't. I won't. I will
Yeah.
not. Absolutely not. And I have spoken too much on those things in my songs to ever believe that somebody else could tell me a truth and me believe it to be a truth, because humans lie, y'all. Humans lie, and
All
that's
the
just the
time.
reality. Yeah, all the time. We all do.
Yeah.
And we were born flawed, and that's not and that has nothing to do with malice intent. No pun intended. Shout out to Malice and Pusha T for their newest album. It was absolutely incredible and still is. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's not that people do these things out of malice. It's just that we're born flawed. So
Mhm.
when you put your belief, and dude, listen, I know this is going to be a controversial take, but just putting your beliefs in human, you still have to be able to have that connection in your mind of, this is where I parallel at. And I'm going to give you guys a very crazy take. And Dunamis, forgive me. But if, Martin Luther King Jr. was incredible. We know that. We know that for a fact. But at the same time, I'll say this. He was saying incredible things. But if you just kind of, were down that line, and, you were hearing him and you didn't really understand what he was saying, then how much of it would you believe? There has to be a connection between you and those words in some way. But again, we can go down a whole rabbit hole, of beliefs and systems and things like that. And that is not for this episode. This is ownership. But I think that in some ways too, you've got to be able to be accountable, take accountability for the things that you own. But nonetheless, what I'm pointing at is when you look at even just something like that, and you have to be able to point that. You've got to be able to point that at you. There's got to be a magnet, at a point where there is a connection to where, like, you can walk that in some shape or form. And I feel with what you're saying is like we as humans, like, man, yeah, we've had it easy. We've had it easy in some ways. We've had people that sound really smart telling us things that sound really great. So great that we believe them. Whether it's our own thought or not, we believe it. And it gives us something to believe in. It gives us hope. It gives us false hope. And even when we go and do our research, which, hey, I got to commend the people that do their own research, you're still in a state of confusion because you've got all these differing opinions.
Hmm.
So when it comes down to it, how do you simplify those thoughts in your head, all of that information that you've taken in, and how do you simplify that into how it matters to you? Because at
I'm
the end of the day, it doesn't matter what Trump says or what
mhm.
Nancy says or what anybody says. Is that going to stop me from getting on my computer and making a song? No,
No.
no. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So to answer, like when you're asking, I was getting ready to answer the question in my head, but yeah, I think ownership. We need to own our thoughts. We need to own again all of the things that make us human, that make us men and women. I feel like there's it's I'm sorry that I'm sort of scattered here, but I'm thinking about even the things that you said about Martin Luther King Jr. and even the concepts of slavery. If you don't know, like, let me take a step back, if it's okay.
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
want
bro.
I want to kind of what was some of what's been bothering me here too, and we've been talking about and maybe invaded in veiled ways some of the Epstein news and stuff that's been coming out, but I think that that even has taken attention away from what you and I were talking about here recently was the flooding that's been going on really all over the world, but most closest to my heart was in Kerrville. As many of you that listen know, I'm in Texas, and there were lost over 100 lives lost,
Yeah.
and it's absolutely terrible tragedy. And I, I I hate the whole idea that anyone would start to try and assign blame or anything like that at a time, especially when so many people are still grieving. But I think that where people have started to try and assign blame may even not be the correct places. I know that a lot of people have been focused on this Epstein stuff and not really paid attention to what the Rainmaker CEO had to say about the cloud seeding operations that they undertook in the San Antonio area 2 days before those floods. And he says that they didn't kill the little girls that died in those floods. And I don't know. I'm not a scientist, you know. I got no idea. But I know that if we and I know that as much as I talk about this stuff, and I feel like, Marcus Aurelius, I think, talked about the idea that being mad at the world, it's like shouting into the void. It's pointless. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like if people are unaware, they're either unaware or they don't care. And regardless of like again, I don't know if cloud seeding resulted in or added to anything that happened with those floods. What I can say is the government is doing things behind your back and they're not telling you about it. And whether Epstein was Mossad, whether he was an Israeli agent that had blackmailed, you know, 80% of Congress, who knows? But the fact that we're supposed to shut up now and not care when potentially there's, you know, the evil that we're talking about here in just in corruption, and it's kind of unfathomable for me. And at the same time, like, I wish I didn't even have to think about this stuff. This is not stuff I want to hold in my brain space, you know. And it pisses me off. I I'm just fucking done, man. I I'm done with people for the most part. I feel that way sometimes. And yeah, man. I want to go do me. I want to it makes me want to move out to the country and just hold a big middle finger up to the rest of y'all. That's what it makes me feel like sometimes.
Well, and and I want to bring that back around too, of just how we're looking at this as a whole, and even how we could stay on the balance beam with this. How is this any different than any of those movies in the '80s, the '70s, the music videos, the 2000 movies, any of these premonitions or whatever you want to call them? And premonition was, excuse me, probably not the best word to use, but The Simpsons, South
Oh yeah.
Park, Family Guy. We have had these things told to us, and you and I are both very firm believers in our faith of just knowing that even in the book it says it is in plain sight, and they will tell you what they're doing before they even do it. So managing a good friend of mine, even and just putting this in a perspective of just managing my expectations. I expect people, I expect humans to
Yeah.
lie, not because they mean harm, but I just expect humans to lie. But that is not the forefront of my prefrontal. I just expect a human to be a human. So I'm not expecting them to be bad. I just expect them to be flawed because that's how
Hmm.
we're born. And whether that is by choice or not, but my expectations are the same in the sense of I'm not disappointed one way or the other. I can only really just go off of what I've reciprocated or what's been reciprocated because of the energy that I've put out, and just being able to recognize those things. So although I am disappointed, I'm not
Yeah.
surprised, and I know that you're
No.
not either because that's just
It's human nature.
unfortunately that has been it's been the
Yeah.
pattern. It's been the pattern, especially in politics. Now, what I will say in this space is, with that being said, now this is where we're at a crossroad. We're at a crossroad where generations before us, they would watch this, or they would watch that, or they would listen to Henry, or they would listen to Marcia, they would listen to Karen, they would listen to Paul, and it would just be this way. Now is the opportunity for y'all to look at this balance beam and to get on there and to walk straight and not veer too far off to the left, not veer too far off to the right. Remember what it is that you're doing. And I wouldn't say why you're here, but just knowing that although these things are happening, I will say this out of privilege, it's not at your front door. It is, but
Hmm.
it isn't. You still have to, because guess what? Guess what? At the end of the day, you still have to go to work
Hmm.
tomorrow. I'll just say it
Yeah.
like that. You still have to go to work tomorrow. So it doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter unless your building gets knocked off by a tornado, you still got to go to work tomorrow. So you can be upset all you want, but you still got to go to work and be upset. So why are you upset? Just go to work.
Yeah. That's it, man. If I could just tail onto that a little bit, that the discipline helps. Like I will say that every time I feel pissed off, it helps to do 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups and 20 curls. It sort of gets my mind off of things, and then I feel good
Yeah.
about something. So that's I've been thinking a lot recently, and maybe this is a good time to bring this word up. We haven't really talked about it on this podcast, but it's been something that's been on my
Mhm.
mind recently. Is this word sublimation? It's a psychological term. It's I believe, I don't know if it's a Carl Jung kind of thing, but the ultimately there's a lot of philosophers and psychological speakers have spoken on the concept of denying your own desires in order to create art or beauty or do something positive. And so there's a lot of examples throughout history. Right now, I'm a little bit of amiss at examples, but I want to say that a lot of inventors have been very famous for just sort of either not being married or denying themselves in order to pursue very heavily their intellectual pursuits, and as a result, we had great inventions. As an example. The only reason I'm bringing some of this up is because that's working out is another example of that. So if I'm feeling anger and frustration, I can take it out on myself, I can take it out on someone else, or I can go and do some push-ups or hit a punching bag or go drum or do whatever, and I can actually get a benefit out of it. And that's sublimation is sort of the thing that I'm working towards with my anger in particular.
Right. Yeah, and just like in the sense of feelings, because sublimation, can be defined in a few different ways. Like in physics or but like more specifically in like the psychological aspect of just that process of transforming unacceptable or like undesirable emotions,
Yep.
impulses into socially acceptable and productive
Hmm.
behaviors. And you can take that as far as the moon goes, and I mean even further beyond. So just gosh, man, it's you can flip this in a wild way, because even or even looking at it like marriage. I'm 33 years old, y'all, and I'm looking at a window of people that are in that generation where I'm at, that have kids that are married, and here I am in none of those, and just looking at that as something that may not be. I wouldn't say that it's not acceptable, because I'm not being chastised for it per se, but it's more of just in the sense of you look at the quote unquote norm versus what's going on this way, and I'm taking something that can may seem a bit taboo, and it's acceptable in my space because of X, Y, and Z. The line of work that I do, the amount of time that it takes, and just my dedication to that versus where my dedication would inevitably be, if I were doing this. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be a child. It doesn't have to be that. It could just be like if I took on a job, like another job that wasn't music, and I was doing that 40 hours
Hmm.
a week versus doing music 40 hours a week. We have to, again, look at these words. We have to look at these words. We have to look at what
Hmm.
unacceptable is. We have to look at what, even sublimation is, and those realms, and really just literally define those things. Literally define
It's
those words.
it all this all kind of boils back around to owning our thoughts, owning our words,
Always.
owning you know how we frame the world that we live in, right? You can go through life letting people tell you who you are. You can go through life letting people tell you what's real, tell you what's healthy for you, tell you all of these things. We're not trying to do that, by the way. We're trying to tell you what we like, and if it helps you, then that's great. If not, then That's fine. I mean, we this project and this podcast has always been. I've tried to keep the idea of being pro-human. You know, we want humans to live, thrive, survive, and do well on this planet. And yeah, I guess I'm kind of rambling a little bit now, but I'm just thinking about how, we have to take our responsibility and own, starting with our thoughts, and then we've talked about money and food and all these other things. I mean, the ownership goes to every last piece of what we're talking about. And even in the social media post this week, we covered land, we've covered Cardano and Bitcoin and gold and silver. But ownership is not just physical things that you accumulate. It's not just your physical wealth. I mean, all of those things, you don't get to take any of that with you. You know what I'm saying? So you really have to own your life, your choices, your life is reality is a construction of everything that you think about, that you talk about, that you do, the choices that you make. And if we can own those things, we can choose life instead of death. You know, every single day and every single moment, we get to choose between life and death. And we get to make a decision that's either going to benefit us in the future or hurt us in the future. And if we can just slow down and make those decisions a little bit better, I think that we'll all be okay.
Yeah, we take time. I think that we really take we really let time dictate a lot of the things that we do, and that's by design. And this is just going to be one of those, kind of arguable things. But again, to piggyback of what you're saying is when we slow things down and we're able to process them for what they are, versus what the overall look is supposed to look like, not even from our own thought. It's just you have to be able to, in those moments, be able to break that down quickly,
Hmm.
quickly. And for some, it's, well, I just don't. Yeah, nobody really knows how to do that. Nobody knows how to do that right away because it's not what you've been taught. And I'll retract that statement and say maybe that's something that some of you have been taught, and I would hope so, because this is a bunch of hootenanny. It just, in the way that we have. I think that, truthfully, Dunamis, I think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious in a way that we as humans have been manipulated for so long and we still
Yeah.
believe it. I think that's hilarious. I genuinely do. I think it's hilarious. And I think it's even funnier when older people, like, who are like, oh yeah, government sucks. But those are the ones that are like, well, I watched the news today, and it's like, darn well Susie has been watching Fox her whole life. Her parents have been watching Fox her whole life. Or Diana, who is, on the opposite end of that. And it's like, and they're over here saying, well, that's all corrupt. That's all corrupt. Well, you're still watching. You're watching on a side, like, dog. You're not on the balance beam. You're not even on the balance beam.
Yeah.
You're not. You're not at all. And I just, like, dude, we're in episode 33, and at this point, looking at just all of these presidents, and I know you've probably been through a couple more presidents than I have.
Touche.
But just in the sense, I just think of all of the things that were never
Yeah.
said. And we are still over here fighting each other, arguing about this, arguing over if Chick-fil-A or Popeyes or Lee's Chicken is better. And I'm just really I'm just really confused. I'm not actually confused at all, but I'm just really confused. Like, what are we fighting? What are we fighting about? Like, what is it? And somebody please in the comments, is there anybody out here right now? I really gotta know. Is there anybody out here that has faith in our government? I really gotta
Yeah,
know.
let us
I'm
know in the
serious.
comments if you if you trust the
Please.
United States government. Please out yourself and
if you do, I want to get you on
Oh
here
yeah.
with Dunamis and me, so we could have a featured guest. I want to talk to that person. Fight for the believer.
Oh man. Yeah. That's so. I'm sorry. Bless your heart just flashed through my brain. So I yeah. um.
Oh my gosh! I don't even think the full moon's over, man. But we're on it.
Yeah. Man. It's I think that it's all gonna be okay. I really do.
So, man, I really hope, Dunamis, that we have another episode that's just, I don't even know what the episode title is called, but I just feel like the spirit on my tongue that's ready to like launch, and I gotta pull her back here just a little bit, because she wants to spit fire, hot flame.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
Have you
man,
seen that?
it's a,
I know this is we got time and we could talk about different things. I mean, this is our podcast. We can talk about whatever we want. But
right.
I it when you say that and you're talking about the intensity. Have you seen that David series, House of David, on Amazon Prime? Dude, you
No,
gotta check that out, man. It is they actually did a really good job. I normally don't like any type of uh, you know religious movies, especially that come out of Hollywood, because they have to change up just enough to make it slightly offensive most of the time, and they did not do that at all, from at least my opinion, in in the House of David. So that was it's, but it just shows a lot of the what you're talking about here, like the David versus Goliath. I just I feel that fire, that passion. I've been watching with the boys this summer. We just watched Clash of the Titans the other day.
oh okay, classic. That's a good one.
and
It's a really
and
good one.
and and I know this is kind of, it sounds like I'm probably just rambling now, but I am kind of building up to the idea that there are monsters in this world, and we
Yes.
don't teach kids sometimes because we're afraid. We want to protect them. We don't want them to know how evil the world is. And I've started teaching my sons this summer, in a, you know the way that you do with kids. And so Clash of the
Right.
Titans was that they need to see that there are monsters, but that men overcome.
Dude, shout out to you. And I've always, and I'm gonna continue to give you your flowers for being such an excellent father, because, and shout out to all parents out there, because you highlighted the word fear in that. And I even feel like, even myself as a child, I was a bit sheltered in some of the fairy tales of just being a kid and getting older. And I wasn't you know disappointed. Excuse me, I wasn't disappointed, more so than just like, why didn't you tell me? And I don't think that it really mattered to me, even then as a kid. And I can go on for really hours, but this isn't about me. But just ownership of being able to accept the things that you have, that you've been able to break and find common denominators, and find the truth within
Hmm.
those things. And people, and earlier, when I was talking about people being flawed, and again, I'm saying this because I want to put an emphasis on, just because people are flawed doesn't mean that they do it out of malice. It's just that that's how we're born. So it's also important for us to, be able to take away information from people as we, go along the journeys of our lives, and be able to put that into our core principles. That's important. And I think, shout out to God. God is, I feel like God has put me in a position where I've been fortunate to be around people that have been a little older than me, and it's like, dude, what a blessing to be able to get like those cheat codes. And just to be able to, like, I'm 33 again. I've said that twice already, but to chat with cats that are in their 40s, or like even in their 50s, 60s, like, I mean, shoot, 80s, that are just telling you some things. And like, like, I feel like if you know yourself, you will have already gravitated yourself towards these people. So the information that you receive is not information that is necessarily unwanted. It's just like it came when it was time. So when I take in this information and then I apply it into what I'm already doing, and then like, exercising those things, ah man, it really does feel like a cheat code. And shout out to you, man, because like you've given me a lot of cheat codes and I don't even think you know it. And I've just been able to like just be able to say, hey, we're not doing it like this. We're not going to do it like this. Or let's move this way. Because something in my head would say, I knew a guy. I knew a guy who moved that way and it didn't
Yeah.
work out. So let's move this way and yeah, let's try that, and then and let's say it works out. I may or may not say anything, or and if I do, I'm like, oh yeah, I tried this thing and I remember you talking about such and such, or it just
Mhm.
works out. It just works out, and it's not even anything. It's just kind of like a part. Either way, the action is a part of your life, and that's what I want us to really take away from this podcast. And it's just taking the ownership of your life is the most important thing that you can do. So that way you can create your own healthy responses of what the news is trying to tell you, what our president is trying to tell you, what I'm trying to tell you, what Dunamis is trying to tell you, what anybody's trying to tell you. Take ownership of the words that matter to you to be able to apply that into your everyday life, to then be able to mold that identity. So we're not having this stuff go on when we're 37 years old. It really breaks my heart to see some people that are like in their 30s still having an identity crisis. And I'm like, man, I feel like we should have all bought a Corvette by now. And because they try to tell us that we're in our mids, like we're in our mids. And bro, listen, you got to help me out
Yeah.
here, dog.
You ain't even gotten started yet,
They,
man.
in my,
You're heck,
Thank you,
yeah.
thank you. I hope the people, the
Yeah.
spectators, heard that. And like me being in my 30s is not
Oh,
midway,
not even
not even
close,
close.
man. It's
It's not
not.
midway.
It's not. You're
No,
you're 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 yeah. So
you're telling me I'm gonna die at 60.
no, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. And I just for a second, because Izzy, I have not had a chance to give you your flowers as much as you've been doing to me here recently, and I just want to speak out how inspirational you have been to me, and the fact that when I'm struggling, that you're the guy that I call. That you're the phone, you're the number that I pick up and dial. And
Well, God
yes,
bless
thank you,
you.
man. You've always been there, and you always have. You always seem to have these wise insights that are well beyond your years and beyond mine, and they speak usually right to what I'm dealing with, and I really appreciate it every time.
Dude, there's a reason that God put us in this. Like God put us in this arena, and I'm not gonna ask God a single question at all. No, I've asked God enough questions in my life to know that it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. It doesn't matter because the answer is all the same. You'll see when it happens.
Yeah.
That's the answer I get every single time. And for us, and we've talked offline about our podcast and just what it means to us and just our hopes and the future of it. And I just know that had we not done this at all, we wouldn't even have these
Yeah.
questions. And that's all that's the most important thing to me, is that we even have these questions. We created questions, and that's dope, man. That's dope, and that's the beauty of being a human.
It is. Even the topics and the things that we've been saying in this podcast, like I feel like what we try to do is lay out a roadmap, but we're flawed. We're flawed too. Like we don't have all the answers, and so I think that what this has turned out to be is more like a mirror than anything else. because we don't have it all figured out, but at the same time we're learning, we're ascending, we're on the path. And if we can share a little bit of that, if there's things that we have to say that might help others, then it would be wrong for us not to.
Oh yeah, yeah. I feel like at this point now we have an obligation that we have to service the people and what we've got going on, and this is just one of the ways that we're doing it. And eventually, we're going to have everything in full circle. So there's just no way you can really get rid of us unless
Well,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying. You gotta do that. But then, even then, the legacy lives on
Thank you.
forever. But nonetheless, all jokes aside, you and I have we've built something. And just that, just like we have built something, and we know what it is, and our viewers know what it is too. But we have that ingrained in us to like we were able to open that door. So now when those voices come in and they start to speak in and they start telling us like, oh yeah, you should go, what, park the waters, or get a boat, like go get the ark, go get the ark. And but like we're looking at it much differently now. We're looking at it much differently now. We don't have to literally go do those things, but even then, like when I think about the Bible and I think about the illustrations and the just all the allegory of just the Bible, and all of the illustrations I see are like correlated with our brain.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, and how like the most godly entities are all in the center of it. So like when I look back at all these things and I look at the Bible and I hear and see what it's telling us, I think to ourselves, man, this is all within.
Hmm.
This is all within. And all it's ever been and all it will ever be is
Hmm.
within. And man, when you really like grasp that concept, nothing
Hmm.
matters. Nothing really
It
matters.
makes what you're saying is reminding me of like in terms of the Bible. I've heard it said that so much of what's in the New Testament, what Jesus teaches, is really summed up in the Beatitudes, and I think Matthew 5 and that sermon that he gave by the Sea of Galilee. And so for those that maybe aren't as familiar with the word, or maybe have felt like God is something that they were at odds with, or didn't feel right. I think trying to read the Bible, and I had heard this recently, and I think it's right. Like, you don't want to start by trying to read Genesis. If you're trying to read the Bible for the first time, you want to start in the New Testament. Probably, I would start with John, actually. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's a really, really great way to illuminate and understand God's love is to start in the New Testament. You want to start with something like, and Matthew 5, or those chapters right around there, are a great way to understand the full theology of Christianity and what it really is saying, because it's Christianity is a move beyond all of this legalistic trappings of religion that I mean, Jesus taught. He was a revolutionary, and Jesus really taught radical love in a spiritual way that a lot of people are waking up to spiritually. But I think that understanding that the Christ consciousness does come from Jesus Christ, and so understanding his teachings, I think, is also a really important piece, because it allows the full reflection of what we're supposed to be in the Old Testament. And again, I'm gonna stop preaching here in just a second, but in the
you're
in the
good,
Old
man. Go
Testament,
ahead.
um, there were all these things, right? Like you weren't supposed to murder, you weren't supposed to commit adultery, and everything that Jesus taught was going beyond the law. It was like you've heard it said that not to commit adultery, but I tell you that even if you look at a woman in lust, that you've committed sin. I you know y- you've heard it said that to commit murder is a sin, but I tell you that if you even hate your brother in your heart, if you even want to hurt your brother, that you've already sinned. And
Right.
I think that understanding that part of it all of Jesus is a piece that's really missing with a lot of people in modern society. I don't think they really understand what Jesus taught.
Yeah, exactly. No, dude, you're right on the money with it. It's again, it's that common denominator between all of this is the initial teaching is the, thou shalt not commit adultery. However, but just however the lust
Mhm.
that you have, for this, that, and wherever that stemmed from, you got to be able to break those cycles. You got to break these
The
cycles.
great thing about
And
Jesus is with that right there is that we like what he's teaching is also that we don't have to do this in our strength. Like it's impossible. We're all sinners. Like the lust, the anger. I mean, I want to punch people in the face all the time. So I don't because I have self-control. But what
right,
Jesus is saying is like self-control gets you so far, but like there's the spirit, God's spirit, and God gives it to us. And when we live by the spirit, we don't fulfill the desires of the flesh. The desires of the flesh are all of those things that we're talking about. And so there is a different way to live, and it's by the spirit. And
right.
getting into the word is a good way to start. But like what you're saying, man, getting around other people, being kind, being compassionate, listening to others, and I'm sorry to jump in with all this because you were talking just to speak on that, but I think that what we do is important, and we should all listen to each other and hear what's going on, and that's all a big part of this ownership too. Is community is a big part of it because what you get out of it is just a better life.
Yeah, yeah, man. You absolutely do, and you kill that ego. More importantly, when you surround yourself by the people that are, the closest reflection of you, and again, that could be a controversial take just because of, what you're going through at the time, and the kind of people that you've surrounded yourself by, or the people that are, surrounding you. But let's just say, idealistically speaking, that you're around, people that have just that forthright thought, that have that, and that intuition, and you're all collectively in that space, and you're able to identify individually, to be able to collectively come together. Those things are important, and dude, God didn't put us on this earth to do this on our own, man, because if that were the case, then we would be the only people here on this earth. And that's like, and I think that's a testament in itself alone of just when you talk about. And I know, guys, it sounds like we're preaching this evening, but I mean, gosh. But when I think about the Tower of Babylon, I think about the initial thought, because like that was a collective thought of everybody coming together and saying, this is what we need to do in order to get what we
Hmm.
need to get. And it wasn't that easy, right? So the after effect of that being, now, we've got multi languages and diversities, and people now that have to come together to be able to find that common denominator. And although we have seen it in broken facets, we have not seen it happen in a way where it's fully synchronized to where now, like, I feel like human existence just explodes. That's kind of my whole thought, y'all. And it's just, I feel that when the world finally comes together and hits on all one vibrational, like, frequency, we're all just going to explode into stardust. That's how and genuinely, I really hope that's how
Hmm.
that happens, just because some of us just won't feel pain. But we've walked this earth for for quite a bit, and I know the earth has been around a lot longer
Hmm.
than us. But just in the sense of, we have seen, we've heard, we've felt, we have we've undergone so many emotions as humans that I feel like, gosh, you should almost just. I want to X the word jaded out of the Webster's dictionary because I don't want anybody to ever live jaded. Not with the information that we have.
No, I
And that,
it's
yeah, go ahead.
people need to live sovereign, and that's the ownership thing, right? Like instead of being jaded and cynical, the opposite of that would be empowered, right? Would be feeling like it's tough. Life is difficult, man. All of this stuff, all of this stuff is enough to drive anyone to madness. But it's the time that we spend with each other, and we.
Yeah, no, I get that, and dude, we're not meant to have an easy life. Even the most well-off people, they don't have easy lives. They don't. I just feel that in my blood. And again, it goes back into we're not meant to walk in this world alone. We're meant to establish some footwork, some groundwork there, and we're meant to be these travelers. We're meant to be the vagabond in a way. And I don't want to be a hypocrite and be like, we've got to redefine these words. Um, but what I am saying is, throughout this expedition of life that we go through, like, dude, you're gonna see a lot of things. You're gonna go through deserts, dry spells, the like we're gonna go through these things. We are going to go through these things. And if I could just really highlight something and say emotions are so temporary. They are so temporary. They come and they go. And if I could say another thing, anger is also a secondary emotion. And it's just kind of like sum up, I guess what I'm saying is everything up to this point to episode 33, when you look at it in hindsight, has always been about ownership.
Mhm.
And in order for us to really hone in on what we're doing and really place value on the actions that we're putting out, we have got to really own those things. Every move, from the moment you open your mouth to the moment you move your hand to the moment you even breathe. There's ownership in all of this. Oh man, this has been great. This has been great, and I really hope that as we gear towards the end of this train. This is again not advice for this, that, and the third, other than just a few men talking about how life can be a little crazy and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, and you know, I do think that there are some things that I want to talk about coming up here in some future episodes. I think that we need to have an episode where we really just talk about what what this is again, where we do a bit of a reset. I think
Yeah.
we need to have fight for a meme, and we'll probably talk about our project again, and look for that soon. I don't know if that's going to be the next one because there's a lot of stuff that we have to talk about.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of stuff we got to talk about. We've got a lot of stuff that we're working on here in the back to get you guys repping us a little bit more. But man, needless to say, a lot of
Yes,
action.
yes, that's it, even the job.
You like what I
Yeah,
did?
I mean, even like it's weird because you think about like actions, what sort of things. I think we were even talking recently about what other Cardano projects are doing things and what they've been up to, and even just going and getting a job for me would be positive action for this project because it keeps this going. It keeps me alive. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
yeah, so everything we do, and I don't, when I'm saying we, I'm not just talking about me and you, Izzy. I mean everybody that's listening. Everything that we and as humans do is important, and every interaction should be taken with care. We should we should think twice before treating people rudely, and
Yeah.
yeah, and we should own
Yeah.
our choices and own own what it is that we put out into this universe, because that's ultimately all that's going to be left when we're gone, is people's impressions of us, memories of us, the things that we brought and the words that we brought into this world. And that's it, man. That's all we get.
Yeah, it is, man. It really is. We only get one shot at this, y'all. No matter how many chances we think we get, because when it's really over, it's over. And what we do in between our time, nobody really cares about. It's more of well, when you're born and after that. But what happens in between is all dependent
Mhm.
upon you. And I'll save that for another episode. I know that we've definitely we've talked a lot about ownership this evening without even saying the word ownership a lot. But just taking everything that we've said, this in this episode's podcast, just knowing how important it is to really gauge what's going on in your mind and taking ownership of those feelings, those emotions, and being able to break them down and defining, like not defining, but really seeing them for what they are. That makes the biggest difference. It's the difference between impulse and a calculated move.
Absolutely. Man, this is great. This was such a great evening, and I feel a lot better. I started off really pissed, and now I don't know. If nothing else, I feel better about us, and that's all that really matters, right? So
Amen.
let's do it again next week, man.
Yes, sir. Always, always.
Awesome.
If you made it this far, Dunamis, what are we hitting?
Let's drop a gem emoji down in the comments if they made it to the end.
Ooh, please. Hey, drop 3. If
Heck
you
yeah.
could.
And until next time, Izzy, never give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, you check as I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, that's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I'll leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression, You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions in the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off, I'ma break off from the weak minds. They can stay soft, you can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free